Hello everyone and welcome back to Code Escuela. And so this time around we are going to create a Blazor dashboard which is based off of Blazorise. So Blazorise is a third-party Blazor components that gives you several handy UI components that you can use in your application. So uh, what does its UI components look like? So here I have opened already the blazorise.com website, and so you should be able to see here some stuff about Blazorise and their components. So right off the bat, it shows you some of the features that it has. So it has quite a extensive collection of components. So it has like 80 plus components that you can use in your Blazor application. And so just some of these are shown here. You have the scheduler, your data grid, charts, validation, autocomplete, and video. Okay, so along with that, there are still uh, quite a number of collections of their components. So looking at their documentation, you can see here that it's quite easy to get started with Blazorise. And so let's visit their collection of components. So here we have a several list of components here that we can use in our Blazor application. So much like the mudblazor components, they have also like almost the same equivalent of set of components that you can use. And so for this episode, we are going to build a dashboard, the one that we the almost the same dashboard that we've built using the mudblazor one from a different episode or a video. So if you missed that one, I will add a link to that video in the description so that you can check it out later if you have some uh, chance to do so. And so, but for this one, we will be focusing on utilizing the Blazorise uh, components, and so we'll be using some of uh, its components to build up our dashboard. Okay, so what dashboard will be building? So let me just pull up. I have already a screenshot of the old, I mean the mudblazor one that we just did. So let me pull that one up. So this one. So this will be the pattern that we will use when we build this dashboard. Okay, so I won't be building everything from scratch, most especially the the queries, the logic queries that we are going to use, since we have already been, we've already created the queries that we've used here in this mudblazor dashboard one, and so we will just reuse those queries to our Blazorize dashboard. Okay, so so yeah, so let me just quickly visit my notes here for my our checklists as we go through this uh, session. And so first off is, of course, we'll have to start a new project. So for this one, I've just created a blank solution and then added the Blazorize project. Okay, but before that, what I did is that I have isolated our queries in its own project so that we can just reuse it for some other dashboard projects that we'll be uh, doing in the future. Okay, aside from Blazorize. Okay, so let's quickly revisit the mudblazor dashboard project that we did before. And so this is its structure, project structure, and then as you can see, all of this stuff is just placed everything in there, including the database that we use. So this one will be using the Sqlite database, specifically the Northwind one. And so what I did is isolate this set of uh, files. So we have our Northwind database, our Northwind context, since we are gonna be using EF core, and then the related services. So we have here the report service, wherein the all of the queries that is used on our dashboard is placed here, along with this set of DTOs that we have also. Okay, so what I did here is that I've added a new class library project, and then placed everything, all of the files from here, our Northwind DB, our context file, and then these DTOs and report services into this separate class library project. And then, yeah, from there on, we can just use this into whatever dashboard project or whatever project that we will be doing later. Okay, so that's the one part that we need, or the prerequisite prior to moving on. So let me just check that here. So now we've done that. Next would be going back to the Blazorise documentation. So again, we'll just look at some of these components here. So you have your accordions that functions like this. Okay, uh, the buttons, you have your Blazorise version of the buttons and some other stuff. So I will not go through each one of these components, but we will be taking some of these components and be using it in our dashboard. Okay, and so the next thing that we'll do is actually create our Blazorise project. Now, there is a quicker way to do this. Instead of creating a blank Blazor project from your Blazor template and then adding in, or uh, following the steps from this quick start guide here, instead we'll just use the Blazorise project template. Okay, so since we are using Visual Studio, what you can first do is add the Blazorise templates so that it'll be available for you on your Visual Studio uh, project type selection. Okay, so first is you need to run this command. So basically, you just open your command prompt and then copy this code, paste it here, and then hit enter, and then it will just add our template. Okay, and so once we've done that, then you can go back and open your, or create a new project. So in this case, if you haven't created your project here, you can just right click on your solution and then add a new project, and then you should be able to see the Blazorise template. So if you search for it here, then this item will show up. Now this is the project template that all has all of the necessary Blazorise application setup that you need right off the start of the template. Okay, so once you do that, then you'll be immediately ready for your Blazorise application. Okay, and so yeah, so that's the another prerequisite for this one, so that you can easily get started with this one. So once we've done that, created a new project from the Blazorise template, then you can now uh, run or do or follow the uh, quick start guide. I mean, necessarily you don't really need to go through this, since the Blazorise template is already been set up for you. Okay, so let's just go through the next steps here. All right, so here, going back to our dashboard layout or template, so we have this one for our mudblazor. We will follow the same uh, layout. Okay, and so what I did here is just let me uh, go back to the initial layout. Okay, so let's just check this one out. Right, okay, so with the Blazorise template, it has several pages with it, but if you run this one, let's quickly run this one. So you just Sorry, my camera must have, okay, I don't know if that is all good now, but anyways, let's continue. So now I've run the application, and uh, as you can see here, I've placed the initial layout so that we know where to put stuff for our dashboard. And so in this case, following this layout, we have three sections of rows here. So the top one would be showing you the totals for the sales, orders, and the ship. And then the second row would be two graphs or charts. So you have the left one would be a line chart of the monthly sales from year to date, and then the right one would be again uh, orders against orders shipped. Okay, so that's why you have two set of bars for each month. All right, and then lastly at the bottom row here, or the bottom section, you have three parts. The left one would be a pie chart showing you all the product sales by the by product category, okay, as of the current month, right? And then here at the middle one is you have your table that shows you the top 10 products for the current month, all right? So as the time of the of the of this screenshot, it was way back on May 2025. And then the right uh, part or section, it shows you the top 10 customers of the current month. Okay, again, it shows May 2025 since that would be the month that this screenshot was created, right? So now you have these three different rows. And so with that one, my initial layout, I have opted to use the row column components of Blazorise. So let's go visit here. So with Blazorise, you have a form of layout that you can use, which is their grid. Okay, so if we go back here and show you the documentation for the Blazorise grid. So much like the mudblazor, it also has grids, and so you can organize or lay out your application in a row column manner. So in this case, you can easily do that by using this row tag or element. All right, and then within that you can specify the columns. So with the columns, you can specify the size of it by using this attribute of column size that is up to 12 columns. Okay, so the grid, or I mean the Blazorise grid, is divided into 12 columns, okay, in each for each row, right? And so knowing this one, that Blazor has this, then that's what I've used here. Now, temporarily for the boxes here, I've found that there is a component uh, has this card component. Okay, so card is one way of like grouping or organizing content. So yeah, it's great because you can also specify the headers, the body, and then the footer, your basic card structure. Okay, so basically with this knowledge, then that's what I'd use to lay out this initial layout, and then added the uh, title for each of the boxes so that we know what to add later. All right, okay, so now that we have uh, created our initial layout, now we will work through building up each of these sections. Okay, so next is, let's close this one. We will be working on the first row. So again, going back to our code here, let's do that. Okay, okay, so first row. So let's look at how I did the first row. Okay, so now uh, just like what we did with the mudblazor dashboard, we will try to isolate each of these sections into their own components. Okay, as you can see here, our dashboard is quite clean enough. No other code is going through here, apart from just the individual components. Okay, so that's why I did this one for the first column first here. This part here, this would be the first row with the three sections. And so let's inspect each of these component. So I've placed them into their own folders. Namely, you have under the components folder, I've added a dashboard folder, and then that's where I placed all of the components that we will be using for our dashboard. So first up would be the total sales. Okay, you don't need this one. Total sales. What is going on? So uh, it seems like the Radzen component or extension has taken over my UI here. But anyways, let's just move on. Whoops. Camera again. Alright, so going back, I had to remove the uh, Radzen extension first because yeah, it's somehow interfering with uh, what we're trying to do here. But yeah, anyways, so moving on. And so here we are taking a look at how the total sales component is being constructed. Or yeah, so with this one, there are several Blazorise components that I've used. So first off would be the card that yeah shows you the contents of the total sales. And then within this card component, I've added a loading indicator. Okay, so how does the loading indicator work? So for Blazorise, the loading indicator is sort of an extension. Okay, so if we go here to the extensions, as you can see that there's this loading indicator component here. So this is sort of like not a uh, not a built-in component of Blazorise, but an extension. Okay, so for you to use this component, you'll have to add a separate package for this one. Okay, so you can do that by going to the manage package, NuGet packages, and then yeah, just search for Blazorise.loading indicator like this one. And then once you have that installed, so that would be this one, Blazorise.loading indicator. And then you can go through the steps of uh, including adding the imports for this one in your imports Razor file, including the adding of the static files in your uh, layout.cshtml file. Okay, so we have here the loading indicator CSS file, and then from there on you can start using the loading indicator. So what does the loading indicator do? It shows you like a graphic of a loading that shows you a graphic loading graphic. Okay, so uh, let's look at this example. If you click on the update, then it will show you that circular uh, thingy graphic that shows you that it's loading stuff, right? So that's how the loading indicator works. So I've added that here, and then you have to enclose whatever content you want the loading indicator to appear. All right, so in this case you put the card component inside of the loading indicator so that yeah, it would show up within the space of the card component. Okay, now let's look at the logic that pulls up the data for this component. It shows you the total sales of the day. Here, this is an example. And so from our separate data service, we've encapsulated it here in our data service project, and then made it available via the report service class. And then from there, you have all of the available methods that you'll use throughout the dashboard uh, application. Okay, so here we'll just call the get total sales of the day. It will return a single decimal number for the total sales. And so Yeah. And so to make use of the loading indicator, then you can just use or bind it to a Boolean variable. Like in this case, you have this underscore loading indicator that lets you show and or hide our indicator. So in this case, prior to calling the query, we'll just show the indicator, and then after the query, then hide the indicator by setting it into false, which is done via to binding process here by bind visible, right? And so same thing goes for the two other sections, the total orders and the total ship. So inspecting the total orders is basically almost the same as the total sales, but instead we've used a different query here. Again, following that pattern, also on the total order ship, then we get this. Okay, and so if we run this one, we should be, oops, camera is moving. We should be able to see the result of uh, what we did here. Okay, so let's just wait for a bit, though it will we'll be able to see what the different values are. All right, and as you can see, the indicators are also showing up. All right, so it seems like our data is like quite outdated. We don't have new data for that one. And so if you want to fill in some sample data or dummy data, we have the Python script here. We have our Python script under the data service that we can use to populate sample data. Okay, so how do you do that? So in this case, you have your data service. Let's just open the folder for this project, and then from here, what you can do is open a terminal here. Okay, let's see. Okay, open in terminal, and then from there, if you have Python already installed in your system, by the way, that Northwind Sqlite database came off from this GitHub project, okay, from JP White 3 and then Northwind Sqlite 3. Now you can just follow the instructions here. So on how to populate your data with sample data. But basically you can, in the Windows, what you do is do this command Python and then populate.py. Okay, click enter, then it will run through the Python script that adds sample data, and then from there, let's rerun this one so that we get a fresh copy of our updated database. Okay, let's go back and run this again. Then we should be able to see some values here right now. So we've updated with some sample data. All right, so now we have some values here showing up. For the total sales you have over 1 million, and then total orders you have 40, and then total orders shipped is 67. Okay, that seems to be uh, working uh, quite well, or as expected from the same from this mudblazor dashboard one. All right, so now that we have that one, next thing would be is to work on the second row, these two graphs here, right? So let me just go back to our checklist. Okay, and then let's go through the second row. Okay, so with the second row, since we are using charts or graphs here, for Blazorise, it is again a separate package. So going back here to their uh, extensions, as you can see, you have here a chart extension. And so for you to use charts, you'll have to add a separate package for that one. Okay, so now prior to using the charts, you'll have to install this Blazorise dot charts. Okay, so let's jump into that code. Right, let me just undo this one so that we can switch to a different commit without having issues. Okay, yes. All right. Now, going back, we have two additional components. So the first one would be monthly sales. It's this one. Now, we have to add the uh, Blazorise the charts package. Okay. So let me just rebuild this one because we're having issues with our library. Okay. So hopefully that should fix it. And so now we can start to use the uh, chart components here. So the first one would be a line chart. So with the line chart here, this is the line chart, and then this is an example of how to use the line chart. So that's what I've used here. Let me just run this so that we can quickly see how this stuff would look like. Hopefully we don't get any errors. Okay, now it's loading up. Okay, now that's seems to be looking fine. And so with this one, let's go back here and inspect the code. So with the line chart, it's simple as doing this. You add the line chart component and then you add a reference to that one so that in that case you can configure the line chart. Okay, now this is the meat of the configuration. So again, we have our typical usual report service that uh, we'll be using to pull the data from. So get monthly sales is the method, and then from there we will start to set up our line chart. So in this case, the line chart is looking for a sort of line chart data set uh, data type. Okay, passing in the kind of data that you're going to show on the graph. Okay, and then you also have here. So here we'll be showing just a list of sales totals, and then you can set the border color in this kind of manner. So you have this chart color that from RGBA wherein you pass in the RGBA values, and then from there you set up your line chart in this manner also. That would let you set up or create your graph in this form for the line graph. Okay, and so yeah, now this is the output of the monthly sales in a line graph form. Okay, now for the other one, this one that shows you the bar graph, so let's visit that one, monthly orders and orders shipped year to date. So again, it follows almost like the same pattern that you used in the line chart component, but you will have to explicitly use the bar chart. Okay, and again, setting up its data source or sort of data, then you use this bar chart data set, and then you can again set the different colors from it. So with this one, you can add multiple data sets so that you can show multiple groups of data, right? In this case, you have the red one would be the monthly orders against the orders shipped. Okay, and then moving on to how many points of that data through the timeline. Okay, and so yeah, you can add, I think you can add multiple ones here, multiple data sets or sources of data for your bar graph. Okay, yeah, that's honestly it's simple enough, yeah, to set this one up. Okay, so now that's your second row. Okay, I think we're done with our second row, and then finally we'll go through the third row. So the third row, this part here, we have a pie chart and two tables. Okay, so let's jump to that. Okay, so now going back, we have added three new components. So you have your uh, product categories of the month, which is the pie chart, and then the two tables for the top 10 customers and top 10 products. So let's inspect first the product categories, the pie chart. So with the pie chart, again, you'll have to be specific. So instead of going back here, instead of just default chart, then you'll have to use the pie chart one. And so following their pattern of setting up the data, so you have also an equivalent pie chart data set. So coming off from our query here to get the current monthly sales by product category. So from there on, we can build our pie chart. So what I did here is that for the pie chart, uh, since we are just getting data for the specific categories, so what happened here is, first up, for the labels of the pie chart, I just pulled out the category names that is being returned from this query. And then for the data is being set here, okay, this part. So we can pull out all the totals for each of the category so that it also gets mapped against the labels so they match up. And then that's what we set here, this part. So for the labels, for the category names, and then the actual data itself. Okay, and then let's go through and run this again so that we can see what it looks like. And yeah, so this should load anytime soon now, and you should be able to see the pie chart first, okay, for the third row. And so, all right, so now we have this one. We have the pie chart on our left, so they are grouped by the different categories along with its uh, values. So this would be sales figures for each of the category, right? Now going to the two remaining parts here, the top 10 products. So they are quite simple, really. So Blazorise has this table component. So let's visit the table component uh, documentation here. Okay, let's refresh this. All right, so basically the structure of a Blazorise table is using this table element, and then within that you can specify table header, table footer, and then the table body. So within that you can set also the table row. And then for the columns, then you can use the table row cell. Okay, and then for the headers, table header cell. So it would look like this. The simplest form of the table. And then along with that, you can have several different uh, options that you can use. You can have your striped one, you can have your vulnerable, right? Bordered, fully bordered rows and columns. You can have also borderless. Yeah, you can have a small one, which is a much more compressed form of the table. Light header, we have your headers being highlighted here. And so yeah, there's quite a number of options that you can use to uh, lay out your table. Okay, so with that in mind, now let's inspect our two tables. First, we have the products and then the customers. So they are basically almost the same. The only difference is that they are coming off from a different query method. Okay, so once you pull the methods, then you put it in your list of product sales for the top 10 products, and then for the customers list of customer sales. Okay, now the structure of the table here is formed this way. Okay, so here's our table. Now I have the table header here, and then set the headers, okay, via the table header cell. We only have 3 columns. And now for the rows, data rows, then we use this for loop. Now, as you can see, again, you have this way of doing stuff in Blazor, and for for loops, you'll have to have this like sort of indirection, because that's just the way how Blazor renders child components, okay? And so you have to have this one, or else things won't work properly. And so with this one, this is what we've used to indicate the row number, okay? What I meant by that is this one. You have this row numbers here on the leftmost column, all right? Same thing with this one. So it shows you the totals for each of the products, okay? They are being sorted by their total sales, the top 10, okay? So I think the table, using the table component for Blazorise is simple enough, since you have the table rows. It closely resembles the default HTML table structure, okay? So you shouldn't be having any problems trying to integrate or use that component in your application. All right. So with that one, I think we've covered most of what I want to discuss here. And so, yeah, it seems to be uh, quite close with uh, mudblazor. I just wish that with Blazorise, you have this when it comes to trying to figure out what colors they have. Because with mudblazor, they have this several convenience of having several constants for the different colors already, so it wouldn't be difficult for you to figure out what color you'd want to use, especially when doing it on the graphs. Okay, so with Blazorize, they have this style of setting your colors. So, but with mudblazor, you can just easily call like color dot whatever color name you want to use, and then you can set the shade, or what kind of uh, I don't know how do you explain that, what kind of darkness or lightness the color is, the color you want to have. Okay, so it's much easier. But yeah, I guess it's just a way of different styles of, yeah, setting the color. But some other stuff also, for so far with Blazorize, yeah, I think much of its component is quite easy to set up and figure out, okay, if you want to go with the Blazorize components. And so yeah, this is the final output of the application. So okay, so yeah, I've seems to be good enough for me. If you go a full screen, then yeah, it does look good though. I just don't know how you set some other parts. Yeah, you have this theme also that you can quickly set like that. Yeah, seems to be nice. And yeah, what's great about I think it says in default. No. Yeah. I think what's great about Mudblazor is that it has the uh, you have the dark mode supported by default, or just a simple switch here that you can set it into dark mode. Then yeah, that's something that, yeah, I'm fond of. But anyways, I think Blazorize is uh, has quite a great set of components that you can use in your application. You can easily adapt or use this one. In their case, you can easily set it up, and so without much fuss. So yeah, I think that covers everything we need to discuss here. And so again, please let me know if you have any comments, suggestions, or whatever thoughts that you have in mind. Let me know in the comment section, and yeah, we'll have a look at it and see what we can do to improve this video or any future episodes that we have. And so I think we've uh, reached the end of this episode. And so please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and hope to see you soon, and have a wonderful day. Thanks everyone, and bye.